Genesis chapter 28, beginning at verse number 10, tells a story that I want to share with you this morning. It said, Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran, and when he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. And taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep, and he had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven, and the angel of God were ascending and descending on it. And there above it stood the Lord. And he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying, and your descendants will be like the dust of the earth. And you will spread out to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. And he said, I am with you. He said, I will watch over and keep you wherever you go. And I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. And when Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. Family, in just about a month, we're going to have an event that has become kind of a hallmark for our ministry right here in the sanctuary. It's our annual prayer summit. Just about a month's time, we're going to be in here, and it was the vision of my late brother, Pastor Michael Yates, who led the prayer and intercession ministry here at our church since its inception. And every November, every first Sunday in November, we literally fill the room, we fill the walls with prayer requests, with names, fill the entire sanctuary with prayer. Every first Sunday in January, we sit before the Lord and we cry out. And in just a few short weeks, you'll see the banners hung all over this sanctuary. Each banner is going to be filled with names, and names from all over the country, names from all over the world even. Each banner is going to be filled with prayer requests from all over the place, and from people who are going through real situations, people going through real chaos, people going through real battles, real sickness, real financial issues, real attacks on their family, real mental health crises. It's going to be on these walls, and they've asked Embrace to pray them through it. And the prayer summit is a moment that we take to do that as a collective body. It's a moment that we take to call every need. We lay hands on every banner. We lift up prayer requests that all of them that have risen before us. And every year God shows up. Every year we hear testimonies from all over the place around how God has honored our prayers to the tune of thousands upon thousands at this point. And every year it's a powerful moment. But I have to tell you, a few months ago, I started getting a sense from God that this year a different moment needs to come first. Somebody tell your neighbor, we need a different moment first. I don't hear you. We need a different moment first. See, there's a principle that I need to plant in your heart this morning, and then we're going to do some more worship. There's a principle I need to plant in your heart this morning. Power with God does not preempt intimacy with God. Let's say it again. To hear what I'm telling you. Power with God will never preempt. It will not precede. It does not come before intimacy with God. Power with God. The ability to operate with God on things. It will not precede having an intimate relationship with God. And the Lord first shared that with me as it relates to our preparation for the prayer summit. But the truth is, it's a principle that impacts and undergirds every single inch of your relationship with God. every single corner of your relationship with God, I need you to understand, power with God will not precede intimacy with him. John 15:4-5, it says, remain in me as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Power with God will not preempt intimacy with God. Psalm 16:11, it says, you make known to me the path of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence, with eternal pleasures at your right hand. In his presence, power with God will not precede intimacy with God. Isaiah 40:31, it says that they that wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. Power with God will not precede intimacy with God. What am I telling you? We've got to work on our intimacy with God. We've got to know how to sit with him. Oh, God. We've got to know how to be with him, how to know him, his voice, his presence, intimacy with God. It refers to our closeness. It's personal and deeply connected relationship with God. It's more than just knowing about God or engaging in activities for God. Intimacy with God is about experiencing a relationship with him that happens in more places than between these four walls. Intimacy with God, it's the extent to which you can feel and sense his presence. It's about the extent to which you can hear and know his voice. It's about the extent to which you can understand his heart and live in constant communion and communication with him. Intimacy is about encountering him. It's not a moment. It's an encounter. And this is the season where that moment has to come first. That encounter has to come first. God is pumping the brakes on everything. And he's saying, be intimate with me. Be intimate with me. So for the whole month of October, we changing stuff. We changing the order of service. We changing stuff, okay? For the whole month of October, because he's laid something heavy on my heart. He's laid on my heart that we need to create space for worship. We've got to create space for an encounter with God. I don't know what's coming tomorrow, but he told me today that we need space for an encounter. Thank you, baby. We need space for an encounter. We've got to create space for intimacy with God. I'm telling you, I know our lives are busy and we've got all kinds of things going on and there's pressure here and pressure there and you got bills here and family stuff here. I'm telling you, we're entering into a season where breakthrough is going to be on the other side of intimacy. Deliverance is going to be on the other side of intimacy. You need a word from the Lord. Stop going all around the conferences waiting on somebody to lay their hands on you. Sit with God. Intimacy. He laid that heavy on my heart because I feel like there's something for us, for this church, on the other side of an encounter. Something on the other side of an encounter. Somebody right now in this room right now who feels like their relationship with God is stale and stalled out and you can't feel him anymore, you feel numb. God's saying, I'm real on the other side of your encounter. Been waiting on him to tell you what to do, what direction to go, what way to turn to, what decision to make. He says the word you need is on the other side of an encounter. There's somebody streaming right now. You didn't even show up to church today. The Lord told you that there's something for you on the other side of an encounter. That battle that you're dealing with, that thing you think you can't get past, that demon that you think has got you. Your deliverance is on the other side of an encounter with your God. Friends, we need an encounter with God, and it has to come first. Before we go to him asking for stuff, before we cry and complain about things that aren't working and things that are not doing what you want them to do, how much time have you sat with him to smell his cologne? How much time have you sat with him to feel his breath on you? How much time have you sat with him just to know your God? So we're going to take our time. Praise team's going to come up in a little bit. We're just going to go where God says go for a few minutes. But I want you to understand there's power in a worship encounter. That's the series for the month, worship encounter. Worship encounter. That's it. That's the whole thing. There's power in it. There's power in encountering God. There are gifts that accompany his presence. There are benefits that come along with his nearness. There are rewards that come with proximity to God. Power with God does not preempt intimacy with him. So have you practiced his presence? It takes practice to be and to get into the presence of God. Have you practiced his presence enough to know what intimacy with him should look like? So over the next few weeks, we're going to take our time, and I'm going to share 4 little mini lessons. Just take just a few minutes each week, and we're going to share a few mini lessons that are 4 lessons that a worship encounter can teach us about intimacy with God. 4 lessons. Lesson number 1 for today: worship encounters teach us how to enter into the presence of God. Worship encounters teach us how to enter into the presence of God. Did you know that there is a how to enter into his presence? We don't just show up like we're doing him some kind of favor by being here. That's why I get so frustrated when we as church folks act like church is about us. Man, I didn't get to sing my song on Sunday. Y'all didn't let me do my thing. It's not about you. If you're the focus of your worship, you're worshiping yourself. There's a how to come before God. In the text lesson, we run into Jacob. He's at a pretty heart-wrenching moment in his life. He just fled from his home under the threat of violence from his brothers after having stolen from his brother. He was running. He's on the run. He'd manipulated his father. He'd ruined his standing in the family. He destroyed his relationship and his reputation in the house. And now he was all alone with only uncertainty and fear and isolation to keep him company. That's what's going on in the text. He was on his way to Uncle Laban's house to try and start over, but he had to travel a little over 500 miles by himself to do so. And the journey from Beersheba to Haran would have been a long, dangerous, and treacherous journey. The terrain from Haran from Beersheba to Haran, there were deserts and mountains, extreme temperatures, no water. Jacob, he would have faced dangers like wild animals and bandits, and he wouldn't been able to find food without trying too hard. And as night falls one night, Jacob stops to rest. And he was so poorly equipped, because he just kind of left. He was so poorly equipped for the journey that all he had to lay his head on was a stone for a pillow. He's alone, without shelter, without protection. He's isolated. But when he lays down, verse 12 says, he had a dream. He had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on earth with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending in it and on it. And above it stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, the God of Isaac. Notice he did not say the God of Jacob, because Jacob had not established a relationship with God at this point. He said, I'm the God of your grandfather and your father, but I'm not your God yet. We got to have an encounter first. I'm the God of Abraham and Isaac. But he says, your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. All people on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you, and I will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land, where you are right now. Yes. Eventually, I'm going to bring you back, and I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. And verse 16 says, when Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. Family, this is the danger of allowing ourselves to live lives where we don't create space for worship encounters. This is the danger of settling for no power and no intimacy in our walks with God. If you want to know my greatest fear, if you want to know my greatest concern when it comes to my Christian walk, it's that I would become so desensitized to the difficulty of the journey that I'm on, that I would become so numb to the pain of the moment that I'm facing, and the power, the presence of God would literally come to me, and I not even know it. That's my fear, that I would get so distracted by how hard it takes to get from Beersheba to Haran, and so much issue that I left behind, and the relationships and the stress, and you get so wrapped up in all the stuff that you're in the presence of the Lord and you don't even know it. Are you aware of the presence of God in your life? Are you aware when he's in the same room as you? When he's sharing your space? Do you notice when God is with you? And more importantly, do you notice when he's not? The fact that Jacob could literally be in the presence of God. Jacob was literally sitting at the doorway to heaven. He was sitting at the literal entry point where the supernatural was entering into and exiting humanity. That was like the door of heaven going up. They were going up and down because they were on mission for God, coming from his throne room to go do stuff. They go down the ladder, and then they do what they were doing and go back up and down the ladder. It was the portal to glory, and God opened up Jacob's eyes to see the ways in which he was intervening in life. And Jacob's like, I didn't even know that God was intervening like this, because he's not my God yet, because I haven't noticed him yet, because I haven't even sensed him yet. He was literally sitting at the doorway to heaven, and he didn't know it. Now contrast that with Psalm 100, where David talks about his relationship with God. Psalm 100, David said, shout for joy to the Lord. All the earth, worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs. Know that the Lord is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people. We are the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name, for the Lord is good, and his love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations. Notice how many moments of intentionality are built into David's worship encounter with God. Look at how many action verbs are contained in Psalm 100. Worship, come before him, know him, enter his gates, give thanks to him, praise his name. That's not a passive set of instructions. He's commanding his soul to engage intentionally with God. Worship encounters that trigger intimacy and produce power, they are intentional. They are intentional. They're not haphazard. They're planned. They're not played with. God is the source and the focus, not our circumstances, not ourselves. That's the how to a worship encounter. Eventually Jacob would come back to this very place. Genesis 35, he comes back. But it was on the back end of some hard lessons he'd had to learn. There was a journey that took place between 26 and 35. But so he came back, but it was on the back end of some hard lessons he had to learn with Uncle Laban. Uncle Laban had put him through some stuff. Uncle Laban had not been the leader that he wanted or needed. He had not been the protector and the provider that he wanted or needed. He actually tried to derail Jacob's focus. He's manipulated him. He tried to steal from him. And so all of that happened between 26 and 35. But God said, and back in 26, he said, I'm going to bring you back to this place. Yes. He said, I'm going to bring you back to this very land where you lay your head. And there's somebody in this room, you keep wondering why you've got cycles in your life. It's because God said, I'm going to keep bringing you back to this place until we have an encounter. It looks familiar to you, and it should, because you've been here before. Same problem, different person. Same issue, same issue, different circumstance, different context, but God keeps bringing you back to Bethel because Bethel is the place where he lives. It's where he lives. And because he lives there, you got to live there too. He's going to let you go live with Uncle Laban for a little while, but he's going to bring you back. And I hope that you build a relationship with him the second time around, because if you don't, you're going to go to Auntie Laban. And then you're going to go to Cousin Laban. You're going to keep having the same cycle until we learn the lesson of intentionality with God. So Jacob came back, Genesis 35. He came back to Bethel having learned some things about himself and learned some things about his God. He came back understanding that there is a how